All right, this week, FBI Director Kash Patel announced a lawsuit against The Atlantic. He is claiming defamation after the outlet published a story that said he drinks to excess and he's had unexplained absences while running the bureau. The Atlantic says it is standing by its reporting, so we bring in 9 News legal analyst Whitney Traylor to talk to us about this because it's not cut and dry. Defamation never is.
What is the definition of defamation? I mean, we hear that term, but legally.
Right. So the legal definition, there's 4 elements. So a defamatory statement, which means one that's likely to harm your reputation, communicated to a third party, false, and causes damages. Now, and that's really difficult. The damages part is always the issue with not always the issue, but that's generally an issue with defamation. How much is my reputational harm worth in dollars?
Right.
But you have to get to that phase first for anybody to start talking about how much money you're going to get. And defamation is tricky, especially when you're a public figure, because, right, you have to prove malice.
Yeah, so actual malice, which means, and this was the case in both of these situations with President Trump and Kash Patel, was the actual malice in terms of did they know or should have known that it was false. So what that means is they either knew it was false and published it, or they seriously doubted the truth of it and published it. And that's such a high burden. And that's when it's a public figure, you have to add that extra element of actual malice.
In this political climate, and there have been so many lawsuits from the Trump administration suing various news organizations in general. They are staying by their reporting. That's what everybody says, we're staying by our reporting.
Yes.
But typically that means you've got several sources. So if you've looked at that lawsuit, do you think there's any merit to it?
On the Trump lawsuit or the Kash Patel? Yeah, you know, it's a good question. And they said that they had 24 anonymous sources. And so
inside and outside the
that
FBI,
anonymous
like
thing.
Service workers at places where they said he'd been drinking. Like it's a well-sourced article, and they had to have known, right, that this was going to invite a lawsuit.
I don't know, but they had the 24. I don't know if they had to have known. And Kash Patel, his argument is they gave him 2 hours notice. They didn't vet it out. They didn't have any known sources. These were all anonymous sources. So I don't think there's a lot of merit to it. I think this is more of a bully pulpit and threatening. And he said that I'm going to sue you. He's been telling everybody I'll see you in court. But when you have The Atlantic, which is very reputable, and they have 24 sources, I just don't see it happening. I think there's merit to it and that the case will go forward where we're at this point. But he just filed it. They haven't even filed their response. And part of the issue, though, with these defamation claims, and this is where you have to be really careful, and as an attorney, I would advise my client, look, you are upset about this thing that they said that may or may not be true. The client's going to say it's not true. This is going to highlight it. It's going to bring so much attention to it. And then in the court, you're going to have to produce discovery. There's going to be, if there's testimony about it. So in this case, they're going to call all those witnesses that came up, and those witnesses are going to have to testify. So it's going to be
sometimes you have to weigh your options and what it's worth.
Right, there's discovery in these things, and you'll be able to depose people.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, this is a technical question, but these are anonymous sources, as you pointed out. If there's no settlement here or it goes to trial, can anonymous sources be subpoenaed?
Well, that's a question. Now, that's going to be an issue related to the press and whether they want to disclose their sources. But yeah, if the Atlantic doesn't disclose them, that's going to be difficult. But yes, they would be subpoenaed and come in. And I would suspect all of them would say, you need to subpoena me, so I have to come in.
Yeah.
They probably wouldn't come in voluntarily.
Okay, we want to know more about damages on another day.
Okay.
I know, because there will be more lawsuits, the things to talk about how you decide these things.
Yes.
So thank you, Whitney.
All right, sure thing.